So I was in deep thought one night after getting fisted in deadlock for 45 minutes, as one does, and that led to me wondering what the best total drama team combination could be if we incorporated characters from every season so far. I know the correlation makes no sense, but bear with me anyway. The team will consist of 11 characters total just like they are in the first season, even though every season after this has been 10 or less per team. I figured it'd be better to go with the higher number to give more characters a shot. These picks are going to be based on the characters' overall skills and challenges, how well they work together with others in a team setting, and how well they placed in their respective seasons. Admittedly, that last reason gives more of an edge to the OG contestants since some of them competed in 4 seasons so far, but that's just the reality of it. Those guys know the game better than anyone else at this point. Apologies if this is a diet spoiler on what you think the list will be by the end. I promise it won't be all OGs, you gotta trust the process. The anchor of this whole team will be Heather. I don't think anyone would disagree with this pick, to be honest. Her average placing across the whole series is a 5.75 or 6 if we wanted to round up, making it to the mergers 2 out of her 4 seasons, just barely missing it in action. Her overall skill levels and challenges really shined in her World Tour winning season as well, matching even Alejandro in physical challenges at times. There was some plot armor going on in Team Amazon for sure because of all the relationship drama with not just Heather and Alejandro, but Gwen, Courtney, and Duncan. So the majority of them had to make it to at least the merger for that season. Regardless, her win this season is still viewed by many to be the hardest to overcome in the entire series, due to how the absurd amount of pressure Alejandro was putting on the rest of the characters, as opposed to season 1 where she relied almost entirely on manipulation tactics rather than honing her skills to win challenges properly or making genuine alliances. She ended up doing just that in World Tour, at least for the most part. Sometimes she'd try to play Sierra or even Courtney at times. Other than that though, she either stayed in her own lane or was hyper-focusing on Alejandro, since nobody else really saw him for the monster he really was, not including the contestants he played a hand in voting off afterwards. The working together with others aspect has always been her biggest challenge, because nobody fucked with her like that in the beginning, but she really mellowed out as time went on, where she still might not have any real close friends amongst other contestants. They seem much more willing to work with her and at least tolerate her after World Tour happened. So putting her on what I consider a super team is perfectly logical. This next pick may surprise you. Sorry, I had to. To me, Bowie is very similar to Alejandro, but better at working with others. As while Bowie did partake in some mischievous activities during his first Total Drama run, I always found it a bit odd how in the runback season, people seemed to be giving him more shit than someone like Julia, who is a worse person than Bowie across the board. But according to the trusty old Total Drama wiki, Bowie did technically cause more eliminations than Julia, despite her personality being harder to work with later on. Not everyone was a means to an end with him like it was with Alejandro though, as he formed genuine friendships with Emma and became romantically involved with Raj. Only reason Bowie and Emma fell out was because he was against her getting back with Chase, and while those two as a couple were relatively entertaining at times, mostly because of how clueless Chase is, Bowie was genuinely looking out for Emma's best interest because Chase is objectively a shitty boyfriend. A funny guy, but shit BF. Bowie's athleticism is arguably on par with Alejandro's, which by extension puts him on the higher percentile amongst all Total Drama characters. That brother picked up an entire tree by himself in the first finale. Bowie's average placing for his seasons is 6.5, which is slightly worse than Heather's, but his second elimination was low-key BS. I can understand why some of these guys would think the cheating streak could be Bowie's idea given how he played before, but the messenger being Julia should have been a big red flag, no? She's had it out for Bowie for so long and she's just as devious as him. If Raj was the one who snitched, then sure, go off. Julia though? Come on guys. Another slight issue here is that there might be a chance Heather and Bowie wouldn't work super great together. However, I don't think it would get bad enough to the point where it would jeopardize the entire flow of the team. To go in a different but similar direction, Caleb would also be decent to serve a similar purpose for this specific spot, as he's just as athletic and probably physically stronger than Bowie while not having to worry about others disliking him for his playstyle, outside of that misunderstanding with how he felt about Priya, but that got cleared up later on with the two of them still dating as of now, with Julia as the only person he didn't get along with by the end of the second Island season, and she doesn't really get along with anyone, so that doesn't really matter in Caleb's case. I know I put Duncan as Thanos in the thumbnail for shits and giggles, but Mike is unironically the closest thing we have to Thanos as a Total Drama contestant, even with Malgon. His biggest hurdle in both seasons he competed in was struggling to keep his various identities, for lack of a better phrasing, under control or overcoming his condition. The representation for DID as a gag obviously didn't age super well, and I imagine the showrunners themselves would agree, but the fact of the matter is, this is what happened on screen and what I'm able to go off of. These different identities, basically all of them except Chester, gave him an edge in challenges, but at the cost of harming his relationship relationship with Zoe. Manitoba had the survival instincts and charisma, Vito the strength, and Svetlana the agility and flexibility. Where by the end of All-Stars, he was back to just Mike, presumably forever, with all the skills his old identities had. Mike's base personality sort of falls into the straight man category, which in a game like Total Drama isn't really a bad thing, in terms of making it far into the competition, that is. Whenever Mike was Mike, he worked well together with literally everyone except Scott and I guess kind of Joe, but both of them were main antagonists of Revenge and weren't really getting along with most people. So yeah, great abilities for challenges, works well with others, and had an average placing of 3.5 for both of his seasons. Damn near speaks for himself. The same can be said for Priya as well, a girl literally brought into the world so she could win a Total Drama season. She feels like a combination of Mike and Zoe when it comes to skill level and personality. She got along with every single contestant except for Julia and Millie for a super brief period of time at the end of season 1, but eventually forgave Millie. So her commitment to winning is extremely intense, especially in the first competition, which may off-put some, but it's kind of irrelevant until a merger happens. And out of all the characters I've mentioned so far, her average placings for both seasons is a 2.5, which is extremely good odds right there. Heather might find her overly competitive attitude annoying at times, but if Heather can get along with Bowie, she can 100% deal with Priya, because Heather loves winning too. She just isn't as loud about it. The next pick might be a bit of a left field one, but I'm going with Emma. No, not that one. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. Emma from Redonkulous. She and her sister Kitty did extremely well in their Redonkulous race run, making it to 4th place. Not hitting on Kitty here, but it did feel like Emma was doing most of the heavy lifting throughout their run, with a few exceptions being when she let her feelings for Noah lose focus on the game. Even that wasn't much of an issue for her as it was for Noah, because she wanted to call things off until one of them won or couldn't advance further in the race. It felt like she shined a lot in physical challenges too, like the gymnastics one in Transylvania. 4th place overall in Total Drama's largest competition to date, and arguably the hardest depending on who you ask. As there's next to no downtime in between challenges, so you're always on the move, I don't know, she just seems very reliable to me. And that's a big reason why I'm not including MacArthur or Jeff on this team despite them making it further. As yeah, they made it further, I don't really find them as well-rounded as Emma. MacArthur is practically another Izzy with how unhinged she can be at times. Jeff only made it to the final 2 because the best friend duo had to be replaced because of Devin's injury. Sanders, though, she could be on par with Emma, to be honest, since she was the more level-headed cop who wasn't afraid to push through a broken arm to get ahead in challenges. Zoe could be considered another Thanos on this team if we're being real. Her performances in both Revenge and All-Stars were insanely dominant. It was almost comical. Average placing, also a 2.5, tied with Priya for the highest of anyone on the list. She would have easily made it to the final 2 if Lightning wasn't given the choice to kick her off, as he felt like Cameron would be a much easier competition at the time. It almost got tiring seeing her win basically every challenge post-merger in All-Stars, albeit with the help of Mal at times. But that's fine in the case of this video because she and Mike are on the same team again. Healthy relationship, while not so into each other that it'll break their focus on the game. She's just way too strong of a player to ignore. Duncan, I wouldn't even consider a full Thanos player, despite what the thumbnail has. I just thought he'd be the most marketable of anyone on here. He's still one of the Total Drama vets who's made it to every single team merger in the seasons he's competed in. His run in Island and Action in particular were the best for sure, as it felt like he became the de facto leader to the Killer Bass team really early on, then proceeded to make it to the final 4, with Action's run being even better, where he won the whole thing despite Courtney trying to manipulate the hell out of him when she was allowed back into the game. He's strong, tough when he needs to be, and looks out for others. His demise in All-Stars was because of how insecure he was feeling about straying too far from his old bad boy persona. Surely his time in prison got him to realize how much of a dumb decision that was. Once that brother gets out, put him on the team. Gwen is another solid all-around player. She doesn't have the ridiculous athleticism of Mike, Zoe, or Bowie, but can still hold her own very well in physical challenges. I'd imagine, on par with Emma in that aspect. At first, she was pretty prickly on who she let into her circle, but at this point in time, she's willing to work with pretty much everyone and is one of the most mature contestants in the series. Action was the only time she didn't perform well, and that was because the opposing team blackmailed her into throwing challenges for them because that's what Trent was doing for her. Even then, her average placement amongst the 4 seasons she competed in was still 6.7, and if she had a better shot in Action, that average would have been in the 5 range at most, but probably lower. I'm pairing these next 2 together because it low-key feels like they get a Zenkai boost when they work together. Shawn and Jasmine. If we want to crown Mike and Zoe as the strongest couple in terms of capability within the competition itself, then I think Shawn and Jasmine are a very close second, and maybe even tied for first, actually. As Jasmine especially was one of the most dominant contestants in Pocket 2 that got omega hoed out of a Final 3 spot. Final 4 still great, but yeah. Immediately became her team leader since day 1 and did a good job at it too. Incredibly strong and good survival skills thanks to her Australian background. Mike was over here LARPing as an Australian, but now we got the genuine article. So pairing her and Mike on a team together guarantees any survival or scavenger hunt team challenge gets done in 20 minutes tops. She doesn't really have any and weaknesses, it's kind of insane. Scratch that, she does have a claustrophobia problem shared with Gwen, but it's not like every single challenge is going to take advantage of that fear. TD challenges don't really work like that. There's, variety, so each new one isn't copying the last. The only issue I can think of for this hypothetical lineup is she and Heather butting heads a bit over a leadership role, as we saw Heather and Joe doing just that in All-Stars, while Jazz and Max sort of had their own spats throughout Pocket 2. Although I think Shawn being on the team with her can maybe help ground her a little bit more, as he's just as nimble, strong, and as much of a survivalist as Jasmine is, hence why they made such a cute couple. Albeit his reasoning behind the training was insane, finding love in Jasmine definitely mellowed him out a lot over time. Their respective placings also great, obviously. Jazz in 4th while Shawn won the whole thing. Still one of my favorite winners of all time, despite the season overall being very weak in my opinion. If I wanted to give an honorable mention to somebody from Pocket 2 or a substitute, it would be Sky, since she came in 2nd and is also incredibly athletic. To close out this super team, we gotta throw Owen on there. Owen's one of those comedic relief characters who sometimes fails his way upwards, and it's so good. It's kind of like Buggy the Clown in that regard. It's because people constantly see him as a bumbling yet funny fat guy, which led to him always being underestimated by his opponents, where he won Island, got 3rd as a final placing in Action, 8th in World Tour, and 8th in Redonkulous Race, giving him a 5th place average ranking. He's one of the few contestants to compete in 4 total seasons, missing All-Stars, but I'd argue his time on the Redonkulous Race did him better because of the extra variety it had and needing to adapt to. So while his quantity of experience is tied with characters like Heather, Gwen, and Duncan, the quality and difficulty of the challenges he's went through can't be compared to anyone else. I feel like that gives him a solid advantage on a team. Everyone loves him too. Well, at least everyone who would be on this hypothetical team. Even Heather tolerates him for the most part. Most of her beef was with other girls or Al. So this is what the final squad is looking like right here. Once again, to be clear, this wasn't me just picking my favorite characters and throwing them all on a team. These choices were more based on logic on who I think would be the most dominant in a team challenge format. It's inevitable people will see characters missed on this list and wonder where they are, but I encourage that, to be honest. Tell me what your ultimate teams would be or how you think I could have made my team stronger. Like, subscribe, all that good jazz. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.